There.
That
Hey,
no.
There you go, Blake.
I think we're good now. I think we're good. Had a couple of technical difficulties there to start the morning, but that's okay. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined each and every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Be sure to tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking. Get those questions in. We'll get to all those here here in a little bit. We'll also be joined by Texas women's basketball head coach Vic Schaefer here momentarily. He's going to hop on for a little bit before they start their day, talk a little Texas basketball with us. So it'll always be a good time. But first, guys, let's just jump right into it while we wait on Vic. Bobby, I know you got some news when it comes to a guy that's been on campus here recently.
Yeah, absolutely. David Bailey. So as we all know, the transfer portal for college football does not open for another 15 days, essentially. I think it's April 15th, right, Jerry? Does that sound right?
Yeah, correct.
But when a team loses or changes its head coach, players can immediately go into the portal and become eligible to visit other schools. Well, that's the case with Stanford. And Stanford's best player last year was a guy named David Bailey, a defensive end edge prospect, 6'3", 245, originally from Mater Dei High School in Southern California. He had 7 sacks for the Cardinal last year. He is on campus as we speak at the University of Texas. Actually, he may still be at the hotel, but long story short, he came in yesterday. He is set to leave later today. His visit's concluding later today. Texas Tech, as well as UCLA, are the 3 schools I'm being told are real possibilities for him at this point. Look, he is not seen as just another player. He is seen as an elite player. Like I said, he's the best player on the Stanford roster a year ago. 7 sacks, but I want to add to this, guys. With those 7 sacks, I was told this morning that not only did he have 7 sacks, but he was the only guy on the Stanford defense that the other team was worried about in the process. And so they were doubling him a little bit and trying to keep him away because he was the one guy that could screw things up for the other team. Texas is really, really high on this young man. We'll see how that turns out. Obviously, Texas Tech has been very aggressive in the portal this past offseason. So we'll see what that means. But he apparently down to at least Texas and Texas Tech, maybe UCLA gets a visit. It could be a decision that comes as soon as this weekend. And Jerry, the bigger point for me, and this is something that I think just people need to understand Steve Sarkisian's MO or mindset, for lack of a better term, is they're aggressive. We already know that the edge room right now at the University of Texas is one of the best in the country, maybe the strongest unit on the team. Okay. And they're trying to make it better.
Yeah.
I've
but
said
injured at the same time, right, Bobby? But a little injured.
Yeah, a little injured. Yeah. But my point is pushing the chips to the middle of the table for them is going to be something they do every year. I just think that's who Sark is. I think that's what Brandon Harris is going to try to do for him and for the team. So we see it that way. I think we're probably, you and I are probably, I was, a lot of people were really surprised Texas would be interested in an edge player. I'm not surprised that Texas is involved or interested, Jerry, in anybody they consider elite at any position.
No,
I mean, that may be, you get a chance to get a first, second round, third round draft pick added to your team. You're going to take that opportunity. I compare it largely to someone like Andrew Makuba a year ago. Texas didn't need a safety. Are they sure glad they had him at the end of the year? Hell yeah. So David Bailey, we'll see what happens. He finishes up his official visit to Texas later today.
Yeah, and look, I mean, there's certain premium position players that you are, if they have serious interest in you, you're always going to take a look at those guys. And I said yesterday, because I said at a show, I can't remember when it was, but yesterday on Coffee and Football, or I guess it was late last week, at the comments about Will Anderson versus Colin Simmons. Could Colin Simmons be that player as a sophomore that Will Anderson was? And so I was looking at that Alabama team. And look, if you could replicate in your own way I'm not saying both are first-round draft picks, but if you could have Colin Simmons and David Bailey coming off the edge at the same time opposite each other, you become a better team, because those are going to be two of the better pass rushers in college football this year. So you're not going to turn that down if that possibility is in front of you. So we'll see what he does. Yes, and by the way, Val Kilmer did pass away late last night, I believe, or yesterday. I think I saw that yesterday evening. Iceman. That's what I remember him from. Obviously, a number of movies he was in. I'll always remember him from that. Jeff Inneman is, when does Aggie announce Beard? We'll see if that actually happens. I said A&M would go all in on Chris Beard if they were smart, and I think they are. But the question is Beard going to go all in on them at the end of the day?
I don't know that A&M's smart.
Look, Bobby, they're going after Beard.
No. They hired Trev Alberts as their AD, who Trev Alberts' alma mater did not fight to save him. Okay, I want to put that out there. And so A&M, look, you can say what you want. A&M fought to save him. He lost Jim Schlossnagle.
Yeah.
Okay. He's lost Buzz Williams. Maybe he wanted to lose Buzz Williams. I don't know. They were pretty happy. What does A&M expect in basketball? I mean, give me a break. So I'm not trying to be rude to Trev Alberts, but show me where he succeeded as an AD.
Yeah,
it wasn't in Nebraska. I mean,
I'll say this though: going after Beard, very smart.
Oh yeah, no,
very smart. I mean, you got to give people credit where credit's due. I mean, that guy's a great basketball coach. So if you're going to go after it, you go after it. Now, can you get him at the end of the day is another thing. But if they pull it off, they pull off one of the very top 5 basketball coaches in college basketball. And we'll see what happens. The question for Beard is, here's the thing around Chris Beard before we get to Texas basketballs. He didn't even get an interview at Indiana. That's got a sting for a great coach. So what is your next move there? Do you try to hang at Ole Miss and wait for Rick Barnes to retire in a year, if not sooner? Something like that happens. Nate Oates goes to the NBA. I don't know. Tough spot, because if you can't even get in the door at Indiana, you probably are thinking, all these big jobs, I'm not going to be able to get, at least for another few years. So it's going to be interesting. Texas basketball got their first commitment yesterday, though, Blake. Dalen Swain out of Xavier transferred to Texas. 6'8" forward, really, really good basketball player. He's going to be a pro basketball player on some level. How much he improves his perimeter game will decide if he is going to be a chance to have an NBA career, or maybe a two-way guy, or if he'll be a really high earner overseas. But Dalen Swain commits to Texas after his visit. Texas we broke the news yesterday. OTF broke the news that Matt Abel, the 5-star shooting guard out of Fort Lauderdale, who originally signed in Miami, he's on campus wrapping up a visit. We'll see what happens there. All this stuff, a lot of this stuff comes down to, you got to build a roster, and you got to have patience required, and it depends on the NIL ask and if it makes sense, because there's a lot of moving pieces right now. But Matthew Abel, I think, is a future first-round pick. Texas, NC State, Miami, Stanford are your schools there. So we'll see what happens. And then today, Jakari White, really talented guard, be a fifth-year guy out of North Dakota State. That's all Summit League player. He comes in for his visit. I think he's with Virginia Tech and somewhere else before Texas, but averaged 17 a game, hit his career 40.5% three-point shooter. So we'll see. The big guy from Nevada, hadn't heard anything new on that one. Look, it's a lot of this stuff's going to come down to depending on what guys ask. Do you want 2 players for that price, or you want 1 older player for that price? Those are the things that Sean Miller and this staff are deciding on right now, because, look, Ryan Conwell goes to Louisville. Well, that tag was way up there. So you want 2 players who will be at Texas for a longer period of time for that same price tag as you build your program? Or do you want 1 guy who is really up there in NIL for 1 year? What if that guy breaks his foot first day of practice? Then you're out. I mean, so there's a lot of things to consider there. And look, Sean Miller's going to do a great job. They want to win, but they also don't. The key thing for me, and I hope and I like the direction it's headed. You're not recruiting for one season here. You're building a program, and that's the key.
I want to add this. I just looked up Dennis Wayne. He had 11 points against Texas in that game, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Was a key player down the stretch in that game also as well. So I thought that would be interesting for folks that remember watching the game. 11 points, 4 rebounds, 3 assists. Hey, I want to say thank you before we get going further today to our sponsor of every Wednesday's Coffee and Football. That is Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, make sure you check out and consult with LowyLawFirm.com. They offer you a free, no strings attached consultation. All you have to do is reach out to them at LowyLawFirm.com. Adam and his team have been helping injured Texans for more than 20 years now. They're in Austin, but they also go statewide. Again, LowyLawFirm.com. Thank you, Adam, for your sponsorship of Coffee and Football.
All right. Before we move on, guys, I did want to read this from Sarah O. She says, wishing my brother and a huge OTF fan, Daniel Honorado, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, Sarah, a happy birthday. So happy birthday to you, Daniel, from all of us here on Texas Football. Very cool.
Welcome, Daniel.
Okay, guys, and let's see here, Jerry. As we wait for Vic, I'm going to go ahead and let you jump on over to recruiting. And then if he comes on.
Yeah, I spoke with somebody close to Richard Wesley. He may be ranked a 5-star edge. You reclassed from 27 to 26 at Sierra Canyon. Richard Wesley was on campus for the first time along with his father and trainer last weekend. That was the first visits to Texas for any of them. Came away very, very impressed. I was told yesterday afternoon that 100% that they will return for an official visit. So that will be, I think, Oregon, USC, Texas, Ohio State, Notre Dame. But Texas very much in the picture here for Richard Wesley now, one of the top edge prospects in the country. Has had, I think, about 18 sacks the last 2 years at Sierra Canyon. Obviously, a school that a lot of people know, whether that's Bronny James, Juju Watkins, I believe, played there. I mean, there's been a lot of athletes start to come through Sierra Canyon, especially since LeBron James got to LA. But Richard Wesley, one of the top edge prospects on the board for Texas and in the country. Texas has entered the fight with Oregon and USC, and I think Ohio State and Notre Dame are trying. But I think it's time to talk about Capitol Grill and some Final Fours or something, man.
That is correct. I'm going to bring him in, longtime friend of the show, Texas women's basketball head coach Vic Schaefer. Coach Schaefer, how's it going this morning?
Good morning, man. It's a great day for Longhorn, man.
Are you over in Tampa already? I thought I saw some pictures of you and the lady getting off the plane yesterday.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
We are here. We left yesterday around 4 o'clock.
Good for you, Coach. Congratulations from all of us. We watched in awe. Your team absolutely smothered TCU in that in the Elite Eight contest. I mean, 21 turnovers you caused. That sort of defense travels. Is that that kind of effort is what it's going to take to come out on top against South Carolina?
There we go.
There we go. Is that better, Coach?
Is that any
Yes,
better?
sir. Yes, sir.
I'm walking around my room. I'm walking around my room trying to get some internet, so I'm sorry.
But Bobby asked about the smothering defense against TCU causing 21 turnovers. Coach, I'm not sure I've ever seen that many turnovers on inbounds passes, by the way. So whatever y'all were doing to them, y'all did it in a big way. But kind of talk about that defensive effort by your squad against TCU.
Man, they were special, weren't they? Those kids played their heart out. 1 through 5. I mean, y'all saw my 5 players up in the press, Taylor and Kyla. But, man, they just went out and really played their hearts out. You know, they knew what was at stake and they went out and got it. And so I was really, really, you know, that team offensively, their efficiency was top 2 or 3 in the country. Somebody told me. I don't have time to pay attention to all that stuff. All I do is look at the film and tell them what we got to do and how we got to do it. But, you know, they were averaging almost 80 points a game. Obviously, they were starting a 7th-year post player, a 5th-year senior, and they had a lot of good weapons around them. And our kids went out and just absolutely played their hearts out. So I was really proud of them.
By the way, we're looking at this picture. How awesome was that flight, Coach?
Pretty cool, y'all. I've been on that flight a few times. It's a great feeling. You know, these kids deserve it. You know, they deserve where they're at right now. They've worked hard for it. You're just happy as you can be for them because you know what their investment level's been. Y'all have heard me say this all the time. The game is real fair, and it honors toughness. And our kids are really tough.
Yeah.
Coach, you got the national semifinal Friday night, 6:00 for those people to make sure they tune in against South Carolina. Look, we thought Texas played Georgia a lot in football this season. Yeah. This is going to be your 4th matchup with Dawn Staley and her women. What do you make of this, and how do you even approach a game like that, playing somebody 4 times in a year? It's almost like you're a baseball team and you've got a whole series against them or something.
Hey, believe it or not, guys, this has happened to me before. In 2017, we played South Carolina twice in the regular season, played them in the SEC tournament championship game. We go beat UConn and stop the nation's longest win streak in the history of mankind at 111, and then turn around and got to play them in the national championship game. So I hate to say it because it indicates how long you've been around, but I've experienced this before. And, you know, it's this time around, we obviously, you know, they're so good. They're well coached. They have great players. We have had a little success against them. And so we can draw from that. But, you know, you look at the games we've played with them, 2 of them have been in the state of South Carolina. We had one at Moody, in which we played really well. In both games, the first game, we had a bad first half. In the third game, we had a bad second quarter. Other than that, you know, we've been pretty good with it. But you can't have a bad quarter. You can't have a bad half against a team like South Carolina. And so, you know, this time of year, you're going to play somebody really good. You just think, Don and I were saying the other day, you go through the SEC, that 16-game gauntlet. Then you go through that 3-game gauntlet of 3 games in less than 72 hours. When you go to the NCAA tournament, you go, man, it don't matter who we play now. We're ready to go, and it'll be good to see somebody else. And then, lo and behold, you play 4 games, and, oh, congratulations, you're going to have to play somebody else in the SEC. So it is what it is. You know, we just our kids will be ready. I think we watched film when we got in late last night. We landed around 8. Time we watched film, it was close to 9:30. And, you know, we watched a little bit, and we talked about it. I asked him, you know, let's talk about the good and the bad from the last time we played. And so our kids are really accountable when it comes to things like that. They know the film doesn't lie. And so it's really good.
Hey, Coach, I got to say this, Jason. We played your video from after Monday night's game where you made this quote. We played the video yesterday, and Jason Watts sent in a super chat. All-time GOAT level quote. I know I'm not their world, but they are my world. Great job, Coach. I think that we played that, and Jerry and I, and look, everybody that follows along with this stuff, those are the kind of coaches you want to play for, man. So my hat's off to you, and I think Texas fans would say the same, because it's one thing to be a coach. It's another thing to pour everything you have into them. And I just want to say we appreciate it. I think Texas fans appreciate it. I know your players do, which means even more to you.
Well, thanks. It's like I said, it's supposed to be what I do, not who you are, but it is really who I am. I can't run from it. It's who I don't know any other way to say it. I love what I do, but I want it so bad for them, almost to a fault sometimes. But I know how hard we work. I know their investment level, and we're here for our kids 24/7, 365. We want them to know that, and our parents understand that as well. So, it's fine. It's when you coach and you teach and you mentor, it's there. You live and die with everything, man. Good, bad, and indifferent. And but my staff is tremendous, y'all. Texas is so lucky to have my staff, those assistant coaches that I have. We really, Blair just was awarded the 30 under 30 award for the WBCA for top 30 coaches under 30 years of age. Lindsay's been acknowledged as well. So, and then Elena's been with me for a long, long time. Hard to believe, as much as we've been through. This is the first Final Four together. But she's been with me and been such a great role model and mentor for my assistants as well as my players. So exciting time, guys. Exciting time.
Coach, last thing I had for you. One, something big's going on if you're not thinking about sport fishing right now in Florida. But something big's on the table right here. But you talked about all season about what you had to do to maximize your team. And you guys have done that. Now there's games left to be played, but now it's different because your team's in the Final Four for the first time. How do you kind of navigate them through that process? You have a lot of experience there, but your players don't.
Yeah, we show a highlight film after every game, and the end of the highlight film has Kobe Bryant in an interview saying, "Job done?" No, job's not done. And so we've kind of lived that mantra throughout conference tournament, NCAA tournament. And so your experiences during the course of the season, playing in front of 18,000 at South Carolina, 14,000 in the SEC tournament. We just played in a pretty good NCAA regional. I'd be shocked if my kids have an issue playing here at the Final Four, in a packed house. I think we've kind of, we've been through the gauntlet, and I really believe that when the lights come on Friday night, they'll be ready. I know we'll do our job as coaches, but I think these kids understand the execution piece, and we just, you're right. They've never been here, and that's okay. But heck, some of them have never been to where we've done what we've done, winning a conference championship, playing, in winning that Elite Eight game. Some of them hadn't even ever been in the NCAA tournament. That's why they came here. They wanted to be in one. So I just think we've got to stay within ourselves in the moment. We have to execute. They've seen what our issues have been in the past, especially against South Carolina. Can't have the ball sticking. We got to have ball movement, and everybody's got a job to do. So I think South Carolina does a great job of all of it, right? Scouting, putting their people in the best position on offense, all the way down the line. So it's two teams that are hopefully well prepared, well coached, got good players on both sides. And so now you got to go play. We've been talking about this. When talent meets talent, what's going to be the difference? When you get to this time of year, talent's going to meet talent. Everybody's good right now. You're playing a top 5 team now. If you're in the next 2, which we are, if you get past Friday, you're going to play another top 5 team. So when talent meets talent, you as an individual, what's going to set you apart? What's going to give you a chance to win your battles, your one-on-ones? What's going to give your team a chance to win? And I just think you've got, you need your kid. Your kids have got to be thinking about that. They got to own that a little bit. Hey, we're fixing to play somebody really good. How am I going to be different? How am I going to win my battle? I lost this battle the last time. What can I take from that, from the film, so where I can win that battle? And so, in football, guys, it happens. You got 11 guys out there, but you got 6 on an island. 6 guys in football, every play are on an island. Yeah. And those guys have got to win one-on-ones. If you're going to be any good, you got to win your one-on-ones. That's the thing. And on defense, you got 7 guys on an island. And so you just got
having a little bit of issue. Hey, Coach, you've been so gracious with your time throughout the season. I'm going to speak for everybody here. Congratulations. Go kick butt on Friday night as best as you know how. And I want to say this. My wife's vertical leap after Kayla Olaker took that ball 3/4 court down and got Sedona Prince to foul out was the highest I've ever seen her. So congratulations. I'm sure that was part of your.
Yeah, there was a lot of people that jumped on that one. Probably higher. There might have been an Achilles pull somewhere in America when she did that. That was but that's a kid making a play, y'all. Yep. Most kids won't make. Most big kids ain't making that play. But that shows you a little bit about Kyle Oldaker right there.
Coach, take care of yourself. Good luck in Tampa, buddy.
Thank you, Coach.
Bye, man. Praise the Lord, Longhorns.
Congrats to you and the team.
Thanks, Coach. Oh, good stuff.
Good guy, man. Just a good guy. Awesome. Just a good guy.
Yes.
Cares about his team, man. That's all the best coaches do, I think. Some do it differently than others, but the best ones are always like that, in my opinion. We'll have Tony Hills a little bit in just a few minutes. Tony on a hump day with Hills. Going to be joining, talking about the new Texas commit, Nick Robertson. Blake, I think you got to do a commercial here or two, I believe, if you're ready.
I believe you are correct. And I'm going to tell everybody, Bobby, about one of our newest sponsors, and that's Timeline's MitoPure. If you work out, it's a supplement that you're going to want to add to your daily regimen because it supports your health at the foundation by encouraging cellular renewal. Heck, even if you don't work out, you need to add MitoPure to your daily routine. It's a precise dose of the rare postbiotic urolithin A. It works by promoting an essential cellular cleanup process that, just basically clears out your cell's battery packs. There's a lot of products out there that claim to make you stronger or claim to make you pack on muscle, but Timeline's MitoPure is shown to deliver double-digit increases in muscle strength and endurance without a change in exercise. They don't just claim it, they deliver on it. And I can tell you that I like it because I recover much more quickly from workouts. I can tell a tremendous difference with it. I also have more energy because of it, which is just an added bonus in my book. MitoPure is the research-backed innovation that unlocks your fullest potential. Awaken the strength, power, and resilience already in you with the first and only supplement clinically proven to rejuvenate health at the cellular level. And right now, Timeline is offering 10% off your first order of MitoPure. Just go to timeline.com/ontexas. That's TIMELINE.com/ontexas and take advantage of that 10% off. All right. And Jerry, if you'll be so kind to tell everyone out there about Mando before we bring our man Tony Hills on.
Yep, time for some grundle care. Let's be real. What is Mando? It's a whole body deodorant, safe to use anywhere on your body, your pits, your balls, your thigh folds, your belly button, your butt crack, and your feet. Created by a doctor who firsthand saw how normal BO was being misdiagnosed in the street. It sounds terrible. Clinically proven to block odor all day and control odor for up to 72 hours. Mando deodorant product options are 2 solid stick deodorant formulated and powered by mandelic acid to stop odor before it starts, and a spray deodorant, aluminum free and ideal for those hard to reach places. All their products are baking soda free and paraben free. Choose from a variety of scents like bourbon leather, Clover Woods, Mount Fuji, and Pro Sport. Y'all know the drill. This is the most important part of the read. Clinically proven to control odor better than a shower with soap alone. Did you know that 12 hours after a shower, the average man's Grundle odor level is a 5 out of 10? Not good, not good. With Mando, the average Grundle level is 0 out of 10. Want to try America's #1 whole body deodorant formula right now? You can find them at Walmart, Target, and other retailers across the country for the very, very, very best deals. Go to shopmando.com. The new starter pack for new customers is $5 off with the exclusive code on Texas, all caps at shopmando.com. That equates to 40% off the starter pack, and it comes with solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes. And just know this, before the other 2 things behind me here, Manscaped and Joy Mode, you got to take care of your Grundle. See what Tony Hills had to say about that.
Yeah, let's see what he has to say. I'm going to bring him in. Good morning. He's shaking his head no. Good morning, Tony Hills. How are we doing this morning? Long time no see.
There's not too many times, fellas, as you know, that I'm at a loss of words. But everything that I just heard on here can only be allowed on live stream shows. There is no way in HE double hockey sticks that they're going to allow Jerry to do this on national televised syndications. Jerry, your comfortability of using the word butt crack and balls is something that I have never seen from any man that I ever known. So you've taught me something, Jerry. You've taught me how to be comfortable in self, and I appreciate you. What's going on, Texas football? How you guys doing, man? Look, happy to be here.
Bobby, you're muted.
You're muted, Bobby.
Tony just articulated why I laugh every single time Jerry does these reads for whether it's Mando or Manscaped or any of those products. He does it like it's just easy. I can say all this stuff and it doesn't matter. Hey, Tony, I will let Jerry introduce Nicholas Robertson from Klein, have you talk about him and show you a little bit of tape here. Jerry, you take it, buddy.
Yeah, Texas' newest offensive line commitment, Nicholas Robertson, plays left tackle for Klein High, going to play guard at the next level. So, of course, what do? We have Tony Hills break down Nicholas Robertson's game. Take it away, Tony. I know you're going to like a lot about this young guy.
Yeah, man. So I was able to watch him a little bit, man. This guy, first and foremost, first play out the gate, violence. Boom. There it is, right? And the thing is that I like about it is that once he finishes his work, if you go on that first play, you'll see it again. But once he finishes his work, he's looking for more. For a guy his size, he moves extremely well, right? He has good feet. He has good hip flexibility, is extremely strong. And he finishes blocks. Here's the reality. He's a bully player, right? He has a lot of DJ in him. And that's what I foresee. I think that this is the same type of mode that we see with a Kyle Flood, offensive lineman, offensive guard. He wants a nasty physical player that's going to, finish blocks, that's going to get on people, that's going to stick and stay. This guy looks to punish people, man. And this is a good one. This is a good pickup for Texas. Some of the things that he can work on, honestly, he's going to have to get that weight down a little bit. I think that if he drops about 10 pounds or so, that's going to be perfect for him. If he's playing in that 325, 330 range, he'll be fine. Need to get a little bit better, right, as it pertains to hip power. Like in these particular highlights, listen, he's just dominating everybody. But when he gets to the next level, there's going to be more technique that needs to be involved. Making sure that he's playing underneath his pads a little more, getting a little bit more flexibility in that knee bend. But his first steps is pretty good. And also being able to understand angles. He's going to have to take better angles because the linebackers that he'll face at the collegiate level are going to be way faster than what he's facing now, when their read and reaction time is going to be way faster. But those are all things that I believe Coach Flood knows he's going to be able to help this guy with. All in all, man, I like the pickup.
Hey, Jerry, please recount how Nick Robertson got his scholarship to the University of Texas to Tony, because I think that'll also give Tony some insight into exactly what type of mentality Nick Robertson has.
Yeah, so a couple things, Tony, with him is, one, he's very soft-spoken, and almost not shy, but very unassuming in person. But then on the field, it's totally different. But what happened with how he picked up his offer from Texas is Kyle Flood went through last spring during a spring evaluation period. And from what I was told, plan to offer him. Well, he had broke his hand and couldn't work out that day. So Flood didn't offer him, and Nick was disappointed because obviously Texas is where he's wanted to be for a while. He's always worn Texas gear anytime we've seen him. So what does he do? He shows up at the elite camp June 1st with his cast on and was the most physical player at the camp. And immediately Sark and Kyle Flood said, yeah, enough with this. We're offering him now. So it shows a little shows that toughness and shows his real want to, doesn't it, Tony?
Absolutely. That's the perfect word to use, is want to. Listen, man, at the end of the day, nobody ever tells you that the road that you travel is going to be an easy journey, right? You got to be able to go out there and take what you want. And it seems to me that that's exactly what he wanted to do. That speaks a lot to his character. He's not going to let a little adversity or setback stop him from getting to where he wants to be. And I think that that's the intangible that you look for, especially as an offensive lineman, man. Like every practice and every game is different. It's not going to always go the way that you want it. How do you respond? And what you saw out of him is how he responded. And I think not just his physicality, we see that jumps off the tape. You could have offered him then based off of that. I think the thing that impressed Kyle was the fact that I'm not going to allow this to stop me from being where I want to be. And, you know, that's why he got offered. So I look forward to meeting the young man. Honestly, I would love to talk to him.
Yeah, I was going to say, the thing about being a quiet type off the field may not apply to Tony Hills. But there are other players that successful offensive linemen. I was telling Jerry, I mean, what's Kelvin Banks? Kelvin Banks, relatively soft-spoken individual off the field. On the field, not so much, you know. Another question for you, Tony. We're looking at Nick Robertson. Texas now has 2 offensive line commitments in this recruiting class, looking to get up to 5, maybe 6 overall for recruiting. Your thoughts on maybe where Texas is going with its offensive line commitments. And I'm going to ask you, because you said something early in your critique of Nick Robertson. You said he's a bully ball guy.
Yeah.
At guard, and you think that's what Flood wants.
Yeah.
That wouldn't be the description you have of a Hayden Connor or a Jake Majors. Not that they weren't both great players for the University of Texas, but they aren't necessarily the type of offensive lineman that Kyle Flood has worked with previously. Is that where Texas is going overall with his offensive line? Because we've talked quite a bit about a new guard center guard combo with Texas this season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, until you go to the grocery store, you got to cook with the ingredients you have. He inherited those players and he made them really good. They're going to be playing on Sundays because of the coaching and the technique that he's taught them, right? But when you look at his MO of what he's recruited, right? When you look at Cujo, when you look at Gooseby, when you look at Baker, these guys are physical caliber guys, right? When you look at Daniel Cruz, which I know, he's a young player, but when you look at his background being a wrestler, like these guys are physical individuals that get after people, right? Obviously, we see what DJ's done, so that you can tell that that's the MO that he's going for. Look, the thing that I understand about offensive line play is if you don't have a good interior, you're not running the football. Period and point blank. I don't care how great your tackles are. It's great for pass protection. You're going to kill a game. But you have to be able to get movement inside to run the football. Period and point blank. Nothing starts if we're getting penetration up the middle. And so to kill all of that, you go out and you get guys that move people off the ball. Here's a young man, as we're looking at Nick Robinson, that is clearly moving people off the ball. And as he tones up his technique, you're going to see him doing it quite often and moving people against their will. And ultimately, that's what you want out of your guard. When you look at the guys that, I've been fortunate to play with, the Lyle Sindelines, right? Will Allens, Casey Studdard, right? Those guys were guys that moved people off of the football, period and point blank. And so it just goes to show you that even back in those days, the formula still holds true. I know a lot of offensive coordinators try to get fancy, but at the end of the day, can you run the ball and can you stop the run? And you got to get players that can move people off the line in order to do those things.
Hey, Tony, I want to shift gears to pass rush of Texas. So
Phenomenal.
Yes, and
Mm.
Colin Simmons is a sophomore. Trey Moore with another year in the program, even though he's playing some time at linebacker as well. Ethan Burke. I mean, you look at the talent in pass rush at Texas. What were the players? What are the skill set that gives an offensive tackle the most trouble from an edge pass rusher? And then two, what are your overall thoughts on this Texas pass rush and where it can actually go this year?
Yeah, the thing that gives offensive linemen the most issues is dependent on the weakness trait of that tackle, right? I'll give you an example. If you're a big, strong, physical guy, bull rushes are something that you're going to laugh at, right? Like I want you to come down the line, right? But if I'm not as quick footed as the particular end or outside linebacker that I'm facing against, now that movement aspect kind of gives me trouble. I get short edge, I get beat inside, things of that nature. If you're more of a more athletic tackle, then the movement things don't give you as much trouble, but maybe the power move does. So it's predicated on that lineman as it pertains to, what the issue is. For me personally, the ones that gave me the most problems were guys that were extremely, extremely strong, right? Because I'm athletic enough, basketball background, martial arts background, I'm athletic enough to stay in front of people and to keep people off quarterbacks when they're trying to do certain moves, counter moves, things like that. But every once in a while, you come down the pipe. If I'm too high, if I miss with my punch, I'm getting driven back. That's just the reality of what it is. You work on it, but it becomes a weakness, right? When I look at the pass rush at Texas, it's a very diverse, that's the word I want to use. It's a very diverse pass rush, right? You got Ethan. Ethan is a long, lanky guy, right? But Colin Simmons is more of a, Micah Parsons type guy. It's a crazy motor, a lot of counter moves, has the ability to bull and come off. He's a lot like Micah in that regards, right? When I look at how Texas rushes as a tandem, right? There's a lot of movement involved, but there's also a lot of games that are involved too to get offensive linemen, to play the guessing game. And that's one of the things you don't want to do. If I'm a lineman and I'm having to guess on my individual pass rush and also guess on games, that puts us in for a long night, right? And so I think that Texas is doing a good job of getting those particular individuals, the guys that are long and lanky, guys that are quick, certain first step. That's what I look at when I see somebody like a Colin. But also, I'm very curious to see when you throw Justice Terry into the mix, how that mixes things up, right? Is he more of a first step quick guy? Is he more of maybe a Baron Sorrell, like a solid player that gets things done? I'm be curious to see where he falls into the fold when it comes to that pass rush as well.
Tony, we appreciate your time. Hump Day with Hills is always educational. Tony, what do you got going on? Give people a little pitch for what you do behind the scenes when you're not visiting with us, because we always want to give a chance for folks to learn a little bit more about you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Always, if I'm not being the dad, right, then we have a program or a company that we started called Athlete Alliance, and we're in the wealth management space. We're helping these young kids to understand how to position themselves with the 4 tenets of wealth. First is structure. The second is protection of principle. The third is the use of principle. And then the last is legacy. So we help them to build out financial models to keep them from being statistics, right? From the NFL space, 80% of the athletes after they retire and they transition find themselves in financial hardships. And so we're carrying the white flag to be able to say, or carrying the flag to be able to help them not to become a statistic. So very excited about that. The other thing that we've been able to do is off of that, a spinoff is create a company called the Origin Network, where we're getting these athletes and athlete entrepreneurs aligned with, entrepreneurs, small business owners, corporate execs, you name it, these high-level CEO business people, to give them a different insight on how to build their network so that when they do transition from the game, because we all do, right, then they have networks to be able to tie into and to establish themselves after ball. And then, everything else, man, they can go to TonyHills.com, Bobby. I do a lot of things. I'm a man of many talents, man. I've written books. I'm on podcasts. I'm crazy on social media. I'm busy. This is why I drink this coffee. That's the energy that you guys be talking about. I got to pour it into something productive, right? And most importantly, you can find me every Wednesday on Hump Day with Hills, giving love to my guys, Blake, Jerry, and Bobby, and to all the Longhorn fans. Listen, I'm a lovable guy, guys. If y'all see me in the streets, come speak, man. Don't just look at me, man, like I'm Bigfoot or somebody. You know what I mean? I'm one of you guys. I drink coffee out of my Texas cup. I got my Texas pitcher. This might be a little vain, but that's okay. You know what I mean? I got to remind myself sometimes that I used to do something back in the day, all right? But other than that, man, just a fun-loving guy.
And it's also, you can also find him at AAU basketball tournaments because it is AAU season, by the way. And by the way, Tony, if you need me to do some reads on your podcast, just give me a call. If you need me to reads, I'll do it.
Balls and butt crack are completely banned on my podcast, Jerry.
Oh, man, we gotta change that.
Shame.
Change that way of thinking.
Take care, Tony. You have a good one, buddy. Hook 'em. Take care, man. Good stuff. Always a good guy. This is always a good guy to have join us. Just a good outlook, you know, refreshing outlook on a Wednesday. Hey, Blake, it's my understanding you have some news for us, actually, before we get to our next ad read. And this comes from practices, a tight end out, it looks like, for a little bit. Give folks the news.
Yeah, so I saw a couple of people in the chat asking about Jordan Washington and surgery being a possibility. I don't know where that's coming from exactly, but I did some checking on that. And sources told me that Jordan will not be requiring surgery, but that there is a solid chance that he could be out for the remainder of the spring. So we'll keep monitoring that. But that's the word as of nearly 9 o'clock right here on Wednesday morning.
Yeah, it's tough because this was the time where he wanted to kind of get out there and compete with Spencer Shannon for the starting job. This means Emory Winston, the true freshman, going to be pressed into some action, maybe ahead of schedule. We'll see how that reacts. But Jordan Washington, someone who I thought had a chance to win a starting job this spring, really, alongside Spencer Shannon, going to be out, it looks like, we think, maybe to the end of the year, or to the end of spring ball, not to the end of the year. I'm sorry about that. Misspoke. But what I would say to this is the real problem that this creates, Jerry, and you mentioned it the other day, Texas likes to two-spot practice. And what that means is they like two separate practices going on simultaneously with the first and second team and the third and fourth team.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, they don't have enough tight ends now.
And wide receivers.
Yeah. I mean, so that's going to be a little bit of an issue for Sark and his coaching staff. They were already light at tight end. This makes it a little bit more different. Ike Aurelia says, "Get well soon, Jordan Washington. We need you, bro." I'm sure everybody feels the same way. The other thing I would add is it's almost impossible to do that two spotting, Jerry, when Sark, runs so much 12 personnel.
Yeah,
with two tight ends. I mean, it was already difficult with Jordan Washington. It's going to be darn near impossible without him.
All right, Bobby, as you said, we do have an ad read, and it's your time to shine here. You're not talking about Grundles, but you're going to tell us about Bluebird.
Yeah, absolutely. Perry Ricard is the owner and operator of Bluebird Organized. She's had some really great support from folks. She will say, is your wife feeling overwhelmed? Does she consistently mention how she wishes she could find items more easily, or how she wants to park her car in the garage, but there's just no space? Maybe she complains about tripping over all the kids' toys or grandkids. Or are you, as her husband, feeling at a complete loss as to how you can help? With spring cleaning well on its way and Mother's Day just around the corner, give your wife the gift of a lifetime with a customized organizing session from Bluebird Organizing. Perry, owner of Bluebird Organizing, will come into your space without judgment and give your wife the organized kitchen, closet, playroom, and or garage of her dreams. Plus, Perry will take all donations for you at the end, leaving you and your family ready to enjoy the new space. It's time to give your wife a gift she'll love for years to come. Call or text 737-346-7779 to book your free in-person consultation today. She also helps senior living, moving from one place to another. She can help with all of that stuff. Again, 737-346-7779.
Thank you, Bobby. And let's jump right into some super chat, fellas. We got a few of those. And again, Jason Watts, thank you for the big super chat earlier when Vic was on. Appreciate that. But we've talked tight ends, so let's talk tight ends a little bit more here. And this super chat from Jack. Given the importance of tight end for Sark, would you consider Parker Livingstone as a receiving tight end, not in line?
No, he doesn't have that frame. He is definitely a wide receiver frame. That was discussed when he was coming out of high school, but he is more of the sleek, wiry build guy. He'll be maybe when it's all said and done, 6'4", 205, maybe gets to 210. But right now he's closer to 6'4", 180, 190, 195 than he is anything. And he just has that sleek build. He has the wide receiver build for sure.
Yeah, he's not there. He can't do that.
And Zane Petty asked, can we move Ogbo the tight end full time? I can tell you he's only working out at tackle from what I've heard right now. I think Sark is I think, they don't want to go to the jumbo package if they don't have to. That would only be, I think that would be kind of a move if all our guys are hurt, unless there's a specific game matchup. But I think Sark really likes having the second tight end be a pass catcher and threat, Bobby. So you're not playing 10 on 11, essentially.
Yep.
All right. Our next super chat, fellas, comes from George Miller. And George, like I told you, I got you covered here. He says, greetings from my flight to Hawaii. Appreciate all the On Texas football crew and what you do. Aloha. And I don't want to butcher the other word.
Mahalo.
Oh, yeah. So
they don't say mahalo in Comanche, Texas.
We don't say mahalo now that I know how to say it in Comanche, Texas. Surprisingly enough, I know.
Hey, thanks, George, for that. I can't believe the power of modern technology. You can watch a YouTube stream from a plane, 35,000 feet in the air. Crazy.
And then Hell No with the super chat. Thank you, Hell No. Thanks for the laughs. Well, thank you for watching each and every day right here on Coffee and Football. We appreciate you and everybody else. And then Juan Garza with the super chat says, Jerry, what's the backstory of Vic not taking the A&M job when he is alumni? He didn't wait for the job to come open. He took the Texas job. Just want to know if there's a backstory.
I don't know the backstory there, guys. I mean, there may be a backstory, but I don't know it, Bobby. Have you ever heard anything on that?
Well, there was thought. So Gary Blair retired like a year later, right?
Yes.
After Vic took the Texas job, he didn't want to wait. Look, Texas is a better job than A&M. I mean, historically, it just is. Doesn't mean he can't make. Like, I think Vic would be a good coach wherever he goes. Mississippi State proved that, right, Jerry? When you win at a place, and there's nothing against Mississippi State, it's a hard place to win.
Yeah.
And when you can win there, you can win anywhere. I think that, and we talked about this yesterday a little bit. The coaches that Chris Del Conte has, collected is not the right word, assembled at the University of Texas. We talked about it with Jim Schlossnagle yesterday. You get the feeling that CDC knows how to do that and get everybody pulling in the right direction. You want to be a part of that. I mean, if he would have went to A&M, how many different athletic directors would have been there in this time frame for him? Right? I mean, how many different firings would have happened in the middle of the night of personnel that he didn't know anything about? So I think that there's a reason these coaches, I mean, it's their career. There's a reason that they hold that tight. Now, could he end up, could he have gone to A&M a year later? Maybe so. But I think when he got a chance to move back to Texas and really compete on a national level, especially, and I will add this, when NIL was just around the corner and probably some thought process to that, may have went into it when you want to compete at the highest level as well.
Yeah. And so much of this stuff is who your athletic director is and the timing of moves. I mean, that's so much of this, whether at the college level, that's what goes into. And we had a question in the chat, and I don't know if you removed the question, Somebody asked about the UCLA center that went in the portal in basketball.
I
That's
saw that too.
I think it went away. Did he delete that?
He may have. Oh, wait, no. Here we go. Here we go from Burgermeister, Jerry. He says, do you all think Texas will be interested in the center from UCLA that entered the portal? Mayor is his name.
It's a Dave Mara. He's out of Spain, 7'2.5" kid. I haven't heard that yet, but I do have an update on TexasFootball.com on some portal stuff with basketball. Jeff Howe and I are actually going to tape a basketball update here later today that we'll have for you guys. Jakari White is the visitor on campus now. Matt Abel, the 5-star guard, should be leaving. The dead period starts at, I've been off by day, 11:59 p.m. tonight and runs through April 7th. So official visits for portal guys or high school kids have to be wrapped up tonight by 11:59 p.m. And then that dead period goes until after the national championship game, and it lifts on April 7th. That's when you'll see the next wave of portal guys coming in. So we'll see. I have a list up. Look, if there's a really good international player out there, Texas is going to be recruiting that guy. I can tell you that. And I would also say this as Texas builds the roster, just remember there's kids out there internationally that may be planning to come to the States. And I think I'm not going to say you're going to see somebody in every class be signed, but it's not going to surprise me if by year 3 we look up and there's 2 or 3 international players on this roster under Sean Miller. Won't surprise me.
All right. Our next question here. Let's see here. We got a lot of tight end questions. So let's jump back over to that. TJ Days with wide receivers and now a tight end out for a while. How's that going to affect the timing with Arch?
Good question, actually.
If I had the answer, I'd tell you.
Yeah.
I was told on Saturday he looked really, really good. You know, given some of those things. I think that that's a fair question now, though, Jerry. Yeah. No longer do I think when you start talking about your top 2 wide receivers and Wingo and Moore, probably your top receiving threat at tight end in Jordan Washington, I think this is a very, very fair question. Will it affect it?
Yeah. So here's my thing. Timing wise, I don't know because they were throwing a lot before spring practice, right? So a lot of your timing is built not with pads on, but I think it may end up being one of those blessing, and I'm not saying this because of the injuries, but it could be one of those blessing in disguise situations as well. Arch already had timing with DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo. He's thrown a lot of passes to Jordan Washington. Now what this spring turned into for Arch is building timing with Jamie French, Dalen McCutcheon, the freshman Kalik Lockett. He's thrown a lot of balls to Parker Livingstone. But now it's one of those blessing in disguise situations. Amari Winston, you're going to start to build some timing and trust. And those guys, look, the biggest adjustment a lot of times a high school receiver has to make, the route running, the understanding of offense. But let's get away from all that part of it. The biggest adjustment a lot of times, and I saw Kalik Lockett has to make this adjustment. If your high school team didn't have a big time arm or big time quarterback on it, then that ball gets on your butt really fast, and that can lead to drops. It doesn't mean you have bad hands. It means whoa, that's an adjustment period to me because that ball's coming a lot harder, a lot better, with a lot higher spin rate, and I've got to get my arms extended quicker, my hands up, and my eyes turned out of cuts, and my eyes up. So I think it's a blessing in disguise in a weird way, but I think your timing is built in the off season with these guys. But for spring practice, Arch now gets a lot of reps with French, McCutcheon, Lockett, Michael Terry, all those young receivers. He's going to be fine with DeAndre Moore and Ryan Wingo and Jordan Washington, as many balls as he's thrown him, as many routes as they've thrown together. But it's actually going to end up being a blessing in disguise.
And then another tight end related question here, fellas. Eric says, with Washington's injury, will that possibly move Michael Terry to tight end or H-back?
Man, maybe H-back, but he's not that physically different than Parker Livingston. I mean, I just don't. He's not a tight end, not at this point in his career. Maybe 2 years from now he can be that big. But Jerry, you and I saw him in person a week ago, and he's just not that size, Eric.
Yeah,
he's just not that size. So I don't think that's possible. This one from RW: did Kobe Black get passed by Cade Phillips? I don't know where that is being reported, but it's not true, according to people I've been told. The facts are, however, that Cade Phillips at this point has been very, very impressive to the Texas coaching staff and onlookers. But I do not think Kobe Black has been passed. There's two things can be true, right? One guy can be looking impressive, but the other guy doesn't necessarily get passed. So I think that's where that's at this point. Jerry, you have any more on that situation?
No, I just think guys are rotating in and out a lot right now, and we'll see what happens. I wanted to address this because I think it's a really good question because I stand by this. You said there's no excuse to have younger and experienced this team in this day and age of college football. How you square that with the current offensive roster? And what I would say is I don't think they are. I mean, so maybe we look at inexperience different ways, but Arch Manning, not really inexperienced. He's 3 years into a college program now. Your running backs aren't inexperienced. I mean, look, you have Trey Wisner, you have Jarrett Gibson going in the year 2. So I don't think they're inexperienced. DeAndre Moore, Ryan Wingo are not inexperienced players. Jordan Washington is a redshirt player. So does he have game experience? No. Is he inexperienced? I would say he's not inexperienced. He's been in a program for a year. And then you have the portal coming up. And like Trevor Goosby's played now. Neto's been in a program developing 3 years. Cole Hudson's played a lot. DJ Campbell's played a lot. Brandon Baker hasn't played in games, so he's been in the program a year. Like when I look at inexperience, I think across the board, none of these guys, maybe there's a lot of true freshmen, maybe a lot of guys that kind of being forced into action before they're really ready to. I don't really think that's the case with Texas, especially let's see what happens in the portal.
Yeah, I think that you could square it right now when you have your top 2 receivers out and one of your top 2 tight ends out. But you're also then not taking into account, do you think they're going to be inexperienced if you add a 2 or 3 year starter at wide receiver and a 2 or 3 year starter at tight end from another program? Your viewpoint may change considerably. Because the offensive line,
it's a good question.
They have 2 starters back. They have a third player that started essentially 2 key games down the stretch for the Longhorns. I mean, having 2 to 3 starters back is not abnormal on an offensive line. It's going to happen.
Yeah. But it's a really good question, Drew S., because I think it's a great topic. And I'll say this, spring portal is important at a couple of positions for Texas.
And we have a super chat from Drew S. And thank you, Drew. He says, love the channel and the show. Thanks for taking my question. Well, thank you, Drew. Appreciate that.
Drew.
And let's see here. John wants to know, any word on how the running backs are looking? The thought was in January that Texas would go to the portal or not for a back, depending on how the backs performed in the spring.
I guess too early on that last part still. I mean, you got four practices in today, 5, right, Bobby?
Yeah, and the one thing that can be said is Christian Clark is back.
Yeah.
Didn't know that was going to happen. So Clark, along with Wisner, as well as Jarrett Gibson, and then the 2 freshmen, James Simon and Ricky Stewart. I think part of that too, Jerry, is, you can't forget about Cedric Baxter.
Right.
If he returns, they're going to have a full year starter as well as a 1,000-yard rusher in the backfield. And you have good young players there too. I think they're probably going to be fine. But to that point, I think they might go to the portal if they think that Cedric Baxter's recovery is not on time. But from what I'm hearing is it may be closer to ahead of schedule than behind schedule.
Yeah.
So given that, it's kind of it's a good question. It's just it's up in the air, really. Let's see how they get through the next month or so, and then they'll make that decision.
A couple of things. One thing I was told, and I want to get to Rob Infield's question because I think it's an interesting discussion, is one thing I was told is Cedric Baxter, just like he was in high school, very involved this spring. You know, he's past the injury part. He is literally out in his jersey and carrying his helmet every single day and is out on the field involved. So it shouldn't surprise anybody because if you guys know what I said about Cedric Baxter, seeing him when he had the minor hamstring injury, which they were holding him out for precaution in high school last couple of games. But he is very, very involved. He's not sitting over on the sidelines watching practice. And that is, for a guy like him, it's not surprising, but still wanted to mention that. Rob Infield, who lost the most from last season, Texas or Ohio State? I think it's Ohio State by a lot, by the way, guys. I mean, when you look at Ohio State, they lost quarterback, both running backs, 2 receivers, 4 or 5 offensive linemen. I think 5 from the first game of the year, but Simmons got hurt early. Center got hurt before the playoff run, which kind of is amazing that they made their run because of how much they did lose at times, especially on their offensive line. But they lost multiple offensive linemen. I think they lost their blocking tight end. They lost their flex tight end. Defense, both edges, Tyler Williams at D-line, interior D-line. I think another interior D-lineman, 2 starting back. I mean, 8 or 9 guys on defense gone. It may be 8. It may be 8, but I think it's actually 9. So they lost a lot off that team. A lot. They lost probably more than any other team in college football did last year as far as starters and impact players. That were actually one of the better teams. Let's say that. That's what I should have said.
All right, Bobby, if you'd be so kind as to let everyone know about Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm.
Yeah, absolutely. If you've been injured in a car wreck, truck wreck, automobile accident of any kind, including an ATV or even an 18-wheeler, and think you may be due compensation, make sure you reach out to Adam and his group, LowyLawFirm.com. They've been helping injured Texans for 20-plus years. Adam and his group will give you a free, no-strings-attached consultation. Just call them. They'll talk to you and let you know whether or not they think you might be due compensation. Again, that's LowyLawFirm.com. Thanks again to Adam and his group for sponsoring On Texas Football and allowing us to bring you Wednesday morning's Coffee and Football.
Yeah, I just looked it up. Ohio State lost 9 defensive starters. It's a lot. And they're talented. They recruit. Them and Georgia have recruited better than anybody the last 5-6 years. Now that you say Nick Saban's retired, so they go through a little bit of a process there. But all 4 starting D linemen, Sawyer, Tiamulu, Tyler Williams, and Ty Hamilton, all of them. Lathan Ransom, Denzel Burke, and Jordan Hancock in the secondary, all gone. I mean, the guys they have back, I mean, Caleb Downs, great player. Sonny Styles, great, potentially great player. They have some really good guys back, some quality guys that have been playing behind starters back, but they lost 9 off of defense. So when Texas goes up there, we got months to talk about it. It'll be here quick. When Texas goes up to Columbus, that's going to be a team that lost 9 defensive starters, and offensively, I'm guessing they lost 7 or 8 as well. So they probably lost 17 starters, not counting specialists off that team.
I think 4 of the 5 offensive linemen for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
And the 2
quarterback, both running backs, the flex tight end, who's a really good player. Their blocking tight end, who's a quality player. Obviously, their number 2 receiver to Jeremiah Smith, who would be a number 1 for most people, is gone. They lost and on coaches. Leo, good point. Lost the OC and the DC as well.
Okay, we got a super chat here from Justin Yarbrough. Thank you, Justin. How do y'all expect fall camp to look with spring ball being more focused on teaching? Does that change the tempo or the way that fall camp is approached?
Wow.
It's a great question.
Look,
I think we're entering an era in college football, Bobby, where people are preparing to play longer seasons, and there's a balance between being physical enough and also saving your players from injury. And I think we're seeing that. I mean, injuries still happen in football. It's a physical game. But I think really in fall camp, there's going to be a balancing act here for these coaches that foresee themselves playing those 15, 16, 17 game schedules to not beat up their team. You have to be physical enough, but I think there's a line you can go over too.
Yeah. Talking about injury, they've already had 2 this spring.
Yeah.
That are I mean, that are not expected to be long-term issues. Ryan Wingo with a hamstring, Jordan Washington with a shoulder.
Another we know about.
Yeah,
another
that we can announce too.
Yeah.
So, look, I don't know if there's a fundamental change, Justin, that will go on in fall camp. And because I'm trying to think of what I see in the NFL and have seen. In the NFL, they tend to go. The difference between an NFL camp in fall camp and college fall camp is the NFL camp tends to go really heavy early. So they will get after it hitting wise relatively early in the NFL and then cool down the last couple of weeks before the first game. Okay. College, it tends to be an amp up for the first couple of weeks and then a cool down. So will that change? And I'm talking about cool down with physicality, excuse me. Will that change fundamentally for Sark? I don't know. I think it's a fair question. Be interesting to see how they handle it. We'll hear probably what exactly Sark does and if he does change that up a little bit. But they come out in the NFL, they come out of the gates flying on contact. Okay. College football doesn't necessarily do that until about, and part of it's legislated because they can't have full pads. But we'll see what that means and how, if they change anything up.
All right, we have time for just another question or two before we get out of here, fellas. And King Me wants to know who's going to be the fastest defensive player on the team this year.
Fastest defensive player?
Colin Simmons.
No, well,
fastest to the ball.
Fastest to the ball, maybe. Yeah. Cade Phillips is a sprinter, right, Jerry? Would he be the fastest DB, you think?
Grayson Littleton's pretty explosive.
Yeah, but, I mean, Phillips is the only sprinter, right? In that group that was an elite sprinter.
Yeah, I mean, I never saw Cade. Yeah, I mean, Cade had 200-meter times, long jump times.
Yeah. I don't know. Good question. I would go with, but to Jerry's point, the one that appears the fastest would be Colin Simmons to me or his size, right? He kind of just is he uncoils quickly. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. Dane Petty said Phil Sam, really fast football player.
Yeah. He had, yeah. I don't know that Niblett's faster than those guys.
Yeah. All right, last question for today. And Wallace says, who is our projected running back number 2?
Well, I mean, look, I think it's to be determined. I think your top 2 backs are Wisner and Cedric Baxter. So whenever that happens for Cedric Baxter. Outside of that, will be determined, I think, early in the season. It's Jarrett Gibson, Christian Clark, James Simon. Obviously, Christian Clark back off the injury. Looks good back off the injury. Got to stay healthy, get through camp, and then get a little game experience. I think the games are actually going to decide it. I don't think the practices are going to decide it. And I don't say game 1. I think it's games 2, 3, and 4 are actually going to decide a lot that happens at running back.
Hey, before we leave, and I want to say this because we got sent some messages yesterday. Somebody sent us a photo, like an Instagram or TikTok photo of Sadir Mitchell being back in Austin yesterday. That's the defensive tackle that left Texas in December and transferred to LSU for Bo Davis. Bo Davis then took the job at in New Orleans. Somebody sent us a photo or a video of Sadir being back in Austin. It's important to note, and I want to put this out there, he cannot transfer back to Texas and be eligible for the 2025 season. So kind of put that out of your brain a little bit. And the reason why is pretty simple. There's an SEC rule that you can't transfer from one SEC school in the spring to another and be eligible immediately. So there you go.
All right. And Seth, I put this in the chat, so hopefully you saw it. And thank you for your super chat. Blake, thoughts on last night's baseball game? I didn't get to watch. I actually haven't got to watch it yet either. Colt had a game last night. So I'm going to try to do that today. So I will get back to you on that and let you know my thoughts, but haven't had a chance. They did lose to Texas State yesterday.
It was 5-3, and I thought the Texas starting pitcher had a no-hitter through like 6.
Yeah, then CJ cursing Bobby. Let me tell you what happened. CJ put it on Twitter. Oh, blah, blah, Kate Being, blah, 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 blah. And then apparently right after that tweet, it was all downhill from there. So fans are jumping on CJ.
CJ will learn the hard way. CJ got to get hard-headed dude now. We got to take care of that.
Oh, man. So, yeah, that's apparently we can all blame CJ for what I've been told. But, all right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by Adam Lowy and the Lowy Law Firm. I want to thank Adam, of course, along with Mando and Timeline and Bluebird, all for sponsoring today's show. Big shout out to Vic and Tony Hills for coming on and joining us on this Wednesday morning. Bobby, what can people expect later?
We got the state of the program coming up a little bit later today. We also have the live stream. Jerry has a special basketball recruiting video coming out because there's just a lot of stuff going on in that realm. We'll have more news and notes on practice as well over on ontexasfootball.com. Join us, guys. I mean, this is a sincere offer. Please join us and talk a little Longhorn sports on ontexasfootball.com. We can't be online or on video live all the time. Visit us there on TexasFootball.com. Use the promo code OTFOG. It's $49.95. It's a special discount. $10 off right now, a year-long subscription. Go to OnTexasFootball.com. Go to the message boards. Join us talking a little Longhorn football and athletics.
That's right. Also, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Ring the bell so you're notified anytime we post content. That way you don't miss a thing. And then as Bobby said, we can't be on here all the time, though. So be sure to further your discussion on TexasFootball.com. And we will be back same time, same place tomorrow. So for Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake.